going to straight away actually ask you, how do you reckon they can do? Fulham have had their times where they've gone up, stayed up, then gone down, then had to go straight back up. I think this is the third consecutive season back in the top flight. Town hopefully will follow suit in that sort of thing, to hopefully establish themselves in the Premier League, but it will be a big task.
Yeah, I think Fulham show how difficult it is. They've stayed up on the third time of asking, having been one of those yo-yo clubs, and it can go two ways when you're in that gap between the top division and the second division. You could be like Norwich, and you land in the Championship, and then once you lose that parachute payment trampoline, I suppose it's hard to get back up. Last year was quite interesting, for me anyway, comparing Burnley and Fulham particularly, because both of them did extremely well in the Championship the season before their promotion, winning the league comfortably, good squad. Burnley spent more money than Fulham did after promotion. I think they spent over 100 million, and I think Fulham spent about 70. And the key difference really is that Fulham went for experienced Premier League players, almost learning really from what they've done previously. And Burnley went quite young and quite youthful, and there was an element of inexperience about how to cope in the division. And ultimately they didn't stay up. And I think of the sides that went down, because obviously with Luton and Sheffield United, I think Sheffield United had their own mitigating circumstances, but Luton didn't really invest in the same way and still put up a good fight. Burnley were the biggest disappointment. And I think for me, it kind of reflected the need, or at least the Fulham story, which is that experience of playing at that level and having players that have done it, that really can help you get over the line. So it's important for Ipswich to try and find that balance between, yes, you want good investments that you can sell on down the line, because that's how clubs of this size operate. But also you need players that have been there and done it just to help you to get over the line. And it's going to be very difficult. I think the gap is getting wider. I think to have done what Ipswich have done, back-to-back promotions, it makes it even tougher. So I think, and I felt this about Luton to an extent. For them it was about play the Premier League, do the season, and you've got that financial backing, and then you're in a much better position going forward. And particularly if the financial situation remains the same between the Premier League and the Championship, if you have those parachute payments and that Premier League money behind you, it's a massive advantage if it's spent properly and correctly and wisely. So it's going to be a difficult season. There's no doubt about that. What you do in the window is important. We don't want to disrupt too much of what you've got as well, because obviously it worked, and you don't want unhappy players in the group who've worked so hard to get into the Premier League. It's a really difficult balance. But I think you'll have the bounce and the optimism and the enthusiasm that comes with promotion. I covered Bournemouth before I covered Fulham, and that first season for them was, there was that bounce and that enthusiasm, and they were able to carry a star with them. There's a few good additions, but it was the core group that kept them up. That's the kind of thing you want to try and emulate and make Portman Road a fortress and build from there.
Yeah, I think those are the clubs we're looking at. I think Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, teams like that who, they're not massive clubs. So, like Bournemouth's got a small stadium, but they've done so well. And obviously, I know they've gone down and then they've gone back up, but they're definitely a team to look at. Fulham last year, 13th in the table. They finished 10th the season before. So maybe a disappointment in a way, but it's still a good finish in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think it was a good season overall. It wasn't quite like that first season back, where there was a time in February where Fulham were up to 6th and 7th, and it was like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? But considering how last summer panned out for Fulham, they lost Alexander Mitrovic, didn't replace him directly. A massive figure for the club, the main goal scorer. Nearly lost Joao Palhinha as well, who's been a revelation in the Premier League and is going to join Bayern Munich now. He's been a really key player as well. Marco Silva had interest. It was Willian nearly left. It was just a really disruptive period, and it just led to quite a slow start. It just took about 6 months really to try and figure out what to do, how they were going to adapt without Mitrovic and play to a new striker's strengths. And once they did that, and they discovered Rodrigo Muniz, who scored actually at Portman Road last season. He scored his first Premier League goal, and his confidence rocketed, and he became their main man. And those striker issues faded away a little bit. So I think it was a season of adjusting and adapting, and they still managed to finish 13th. Their squad was stronger, I think, overall, apart from up front. but I think they'll take it. Fulham are all about trying to just stabilise in the Premier League. You know, Marco Silva has been saying that repeatedly. That's what we want to do. And to be honest, if you want to go higher than that, to the top 10, I mean, it's the teams there now, the money behind them. You say it's a big 6, it's technically a big 7. You've got Newcastle, you've got Villa, you've got Champions League football now. I mean, then there's Brighton and Brentford and clubs like that. It's hard. So, it was a good season overall in the circumstances, I'd say.
Yeah.
And the Carabao Cup, sorry, of course,
semi-final,
first time in the club's history, which was, a huge thing. And they pushed Liverpool really close. And I think, for to have those cup runs, it makes such a big difference if you're mid-table in the Premier League.